Welcome back, everybody, to the No Name Show on Inside Texas, whatever we're calling this. It's been a month or two. Doesn't matter. Still don't have a name, but Nash and I are back on Mondays over on the Inside Texas YouTube channel. Before we get started into things, make sure you're going over to InsideTexas.com, signing up for just $1 right now on our flash sale. Join the best Longhorns content for right now. What a lot of us are talking about is transfer portal and a little bit of 2027 recruiting and some of this Citrus Bowl, Cheez It Citrus Bowl news. But make sure you're going over there. $1. You can join Inside Texas today. The best deal you're going to get for all your Longhorn content. Nash, it's good to be back. It kind of comes with some, in some ways, solemn news, and in other ways, kind of a good sign for the Texas Longhorns. We'll start with CJ Baxter being the first player that hits the transfer portal. Trey Owens did as well. This is one we expected for quite some time. But the Baxter one, not that it came out of nowhere, but it really was sudden. And it first Monday morning name into the it's not officially in the portal, but Monday morning immediately, that's the first guy gone. And I think it kind of says a lot about what the progress and where this team is going heading into the 2026 season.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about CJ Baxter too, this is just kind of, I think his time at Texas is going to be just this giant what if.
Hmm.
What if he had, because I mean, he he gets in the game and what is it, like 3 carries after his third carry, he's already head to the sideline against Rice. Like, he had a big 15-yard gain, injures his ribs, and then he comes back versus Alabama, gets injured early in that game, and then that's really that's the injury that allowed us to get Jonathan Brooks in that starting role and to get Brooks some legit run. But I mean, it feels like the running theme with CJ Baxter has always been the injuries here at Texas, whether it's been a season-ending one or just one that's just nagged at him inside of a little game or just this little tiny thing that's popped up. So it sucks. Best of luck to him. But I mean, this was a guy that really we hadn't really seen stay healthy at Texas.
And it truly is unfortunate. You're talking about the number one guy in his class was starting as a true freshman. Whether that really should have been how it was.
All the
Jonathan
talent in the world.
Brooks was a
Great
great
pass
player.
blocker.
Yeah, and one of those guys that really fits that culture identity that Steve Sarkisian's always talking about. One of Sark's favorite players, I believe, and he really cared a lot for the guy. And of course, an injury like that is one that sometimes you just can't come back from. And I think it's okay that as we lose Nash a little bit here, I think it is okay for this kind of process to happen, where Baxter kind of takes his leave and says, "Hey, it didn't quite work out in the 3 years that I played here. Probably was expecting to play only 3 years in Austin anyway." If it weren't for the injuries. And then, he can maybe go closer to home or get a G5 opportunity or compete for a starting job at a lower tier Power Four team. And this allows Texas to kind of look towards rebuilding this running back room for next season, which I think is really important. Nash, let's talk about the playoff here because I think if there's any two people that people online are most associating with Inside Texas and playoff discussion, it's me and you. You with your Texas and me. I think Notre Dame fans despise me, even though I ended up being right. And they rightfully weren't in there. But let's talk about the field that we're in because I think we can all agree that there's something a little off with how this setup is done with the 12 teams, whether it be how it kind of ties in with conference championships, the buys, how they're doled out. But Nash, just a simple question: is 12 the right number, or should it be 8, 4, 16, or God forbid 24?
I mean, in my opinion, I'm a fan of moving it down to 6. I think that we weren't too far off with the number 4 that we had. The problem was when we had 4, we just had it was like there were like 2 or 3 teams that were just on the edge every single year, right? And the way that I think about it is, man, like when you look, especially this year, there's a 1 to 2 team. There's teams 1 and 2, and then there's a gap, and then you start ranking like 3 through 4 or 5. Then there's another gap, and there's usually this 1 to 2 gap. 1 to 2 is pretty much they're in their almost little tier of their own. Let those teams get a bye, and honestly, depending on how this if this works out, where because last year we saw all the teams that had a bye week, they ended up getting hurt. If buys end up hurting teams, we need to flip this around and let the teams that are doing better, play early on and get a home game. But I'm a fan of having 2 playing games early on, and then you also have 2 more teams. That's 6, and I feel like we weren't too far off. I mean that removes a lot of the 10-2 discussion. If you get to 2 losses, you're pretty much out. 1 loss, you're all right, but 2 losses, you're done. Now that would hurt the non-conference, schedule, but I mean, we're already in a world where we're doing that.
Yeah. I've been saying that. Well, firstly, I do like with your 6 team idea that either
And
way,
no auto bids, no auto bids. It's purely 1 through 6. If you're not a top 6 team, I don't care if your name is Tulane. If you're not a top 6 team, you do not get in.
well, I think maybe my point would be you could maybe do if there are in that non-auto bid, if there are 2 conference champions, then the conference champions get that bye and they get priority there because that probably insinuates an SEC and a Big Ten winner. But what I've been saying a lot this cycle is I think it would have been a great year to have 16 teams. I think it would have been a great year to have 4 teams. It's a terrible year to have 12 because there's just too many teams that feel like they're getting left out. But there's actually not that after Oregon is the fifth best team or Texas Tech, whichever one you want to pick, it's a pretty big drop off. I think there's a clear top five, and it's not quite Ole Miss's fault that Kiffin's gone, but A&M has looked worse at the end of the season. Everyone else just kind of looks eh. So I think it'd been a great year to just have 4 teams and say, all right, Tech, Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, go play for it. But my only thing with the 6 teams is that I don't know how many teams would feel wrongfully left out given how big our conference sizes are because the ninth team this year, correct me if I'm wrong, is Oklahoma or is that Alabama? Who's I think it's Oklahoma or Alabama, one of the two who's there.
Alabama's 9.
Not
Eight
Alabama, yes, thank you.
Oklahoma.
So Alabama's going, hey, we were in the SEC championship game and we don't get a chance to compete. Now, in some ways, I think the answer is yes. You lost to Florida State, you lost another game in the season, but they also did beat Georgia. So I'm personally on the side of 12. I think you can do 12 correctly and not have these auto bids really kind of dictate how everything goes. And you can find ways to fix the schedule so that these bye weeks don't feel like punishments. Because my biggest problem with the 12 team right now is that the 5 seed is the best seed. That is a flawed playoff identity if your 5 seed is better than your 1 seed. And I'd love to know your take on just kind of the current format of the 12 team.
I mean, I really don't like the idea of auto bids, and especially I think that there needs to be a cap on a certain rank where you give a team an auto bid, and then because I think this is a problem that you run in, and this is why I said that like in my 6 team scenario I wouldn't do conference champions. There's no auto bid. I think the problem that you run into is with these conferences. One, no 2 conferences are alike in the procedures that how they determine the tiebreakers.
Yeah.
Miami was clearly one of the top 2 teams in the ACC, and they weren't in the conference championship. Like that, to me is a problem, and that you can't when you start having one problem like that, you're like there's just a major flaw in the auto bid system immediately right there, and that's just one conference in. So I do think, and this is where we're headed. If you look at like what Ross Dellinger's been putting out, like there's been a lot of talk about moving to a 16 team playoff where you're going to have the 5 automatic qualifiers and then the 11 at large 11 at large bids. I mean, I can get behind that because at that point, if you lose your conference championship game and you fall out of the top 16, you don't deserve to be in the playoff. Like you don't even deserve to sniff it. So the whole Alabama discussion, they would be able to move Alabama down without having some you left out the SEC, the team that's been playing the SEC championship game. But on top of that too, it seems like they're going to try and keep the conference championships alive by allowing auto bids with the 5 automatic qualifiers, and they're going to continue to have that group of 5 team. It seems like, and this isn't final. We'll find all this out on January 23rd when they had an extension. Should have announced it already, but this is just one of these deals where the 16 team format. I mean, they are going to continue to add teams until they get to something that's solidified. And I mean, right now we're in this state of we don't know what the heck is going to happen with college football. But I mean, moving to 16 teams, it's just it feels like this is pretty much already set in stone, and there's not much that we can do about it.
Well, let's talk about the non-conference because we hinted at it a little bit, but Texas is going to play against Ohio State next year and Michigan 2 years, and then that's smart by them. They need to keep those home and homes there and get your home game in. But past that, I doubt they're going to play the Notre Dame series, and who knows Arizona State. But what do you think the future of non-conference play in football in college football is? Because this is just a really tough topic to talk about because it's hurt teams like Texas clearly with the Ohio State loss. It also helped them when it was a smaller field. It probably could have helped BYU if they beat a better team out of conference, but would it have really changed anything? It helped Miami a lot. I want to know your thoughts on where this is going to go in the future.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought just for a second there, but like you've heard like Joel Klatt and Josh Pate, they've mentioned this idea of a conference challenge weekend that's been thrown around where you have the conference championship and then there's like 3 or 4 games after that with like seeds 1 through 6 in the conferences. It feels like what they're doing is they're moving all the non-conference matchups that we had in the beginning of the year. They're just pushing those over to the end. They're setting up as much good football towards the end of the season as possible. But I mean, really, you've seen it's been at this point. You have a list of there's Kirby Smart, there's Urban Meyer, there's Ryan Day, not Ryan Day. There's Steve Sarkisian, there's Mike Elko. The list just of college coaches that keeps on growing of them talking about, hey, yeah, we're going to have to reevaluate this non-conference schedule. When all these coaches are saying it, man, I mean, like this is just non-conference is dead. We're all those amazing games that we had in the beginning of the season. I'll say this: we'll be lucky to see Texas versus Ohio State this next year. I think
really,
Texas versus Michigan's not going to happen at Tech in Austin.
It really would be a shame because I think a lot of college football is built on that early week. Having something fun to look forward to early in the season.
We were looking like we were headed in such a great direction as a sport.
Yeah, it was going to be at best you get 2 games, or now it could be at best you get two games, and then you play SEC play, and those 2 games are going to be terrible because you're not going to want to play anyone of note because it's going to hurt your seeding. Let's talk a little bit about Texas here because we do have a bowl game on New Year's Eve on the 31st, and I think outside of players that can play and will opt out, who's to know. I do think one important person to talk about right now is Arch Manning. It's almost like we've stopped talking about him because there's been so much else to talk about, but this past half of the year, Nash has been quite a big jump in production. And I think a lot of us just keep saying he's jumped, he's gotten better, he's started selling more. Some of that has to do with his offensive line getting better and the play calling getting a little better. But what definitively have you seen that has most impressed you in the back half of the season that maybe wasn't there in the first part, or at least is just a new wrinkle to his game?
I mean,
quick timeout. If you have a move coming up in the Dallas area, put real estate agent Josh Holden in your starting lineup. He's a UT grad, a lifetime Texas Ex, and he scouted every inch of the Metroplex. From Highland Park and Preston Hollow to Uptown and Old East Dallas, Josh Holden knows the market, and he's going to match you with the perfect home. On top of that, he has years of experience in commercial property management, so he has the playbook for contracts, curb appeal, and everything in between. Bottom line, Josh Holden is an easy win. He is reliable, savvy, and he helps you close with confidence. Reach him at josh@joshholdenrealestate.com, or you can call or text 972-917-8081. Contact info is in the description.
The accuracy, he's gotten more accurate, but to me, I feel like the number one thing with Arch Manning, what you've seen was he just got used to the pressure. Like I wrote an article in the middle of the season where it's like, hey, Arch Manning, this is like trial by fire right now, and pressure makes diamonds, right? Like when you're under pressure like that and you survive, you're gonna come out as a better player. It's just. You watch him back there. I mean, he is immediately having guys in his face often on snaps, having to evade pressure, having to always keep his eyes downfield. Like the amount of times that he's kept his eyes downfield this season, in times where there's like 3 or 4 dudes just chasing after him. There are a ton of people that have all the talent in the world to be a quarterback. All the physical they can run, they can throw, they can do all that stuff, but they mentally cannot handle it up here that there's 3 or 4 300-pound dudes chasing after you, right? It's some real fear that goes on when you're playing the quarterback position. And man, for him to just stay confident, and you not And then also too, like to go to also like kind of almost like a baseball pitcher like kind of approach. You don't just randomly change things just because something's not going your way. You stick with the process. You stick with what you know. You stick with what's giving you success, and you're more often than not you're going to find that success again. So I really like the consistency that we've seen from him. You don't see too many radical changes with like he's not like when everybody was complaining about his, oh wow, he looks like he's under a lot of pain throwing the football, right? He doesn't change his throwing motion. Arch Manning's Arch Manning. He's going to stay Arch Manning.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing I've noticed with him late in the year is that he's just so good against blitzes and pressure, like not just like outside pressure, literally on the field pressure. I think when you talk about this guy going into next year, and we can skip past what the overall Heisman or CFB implications are with him. I just think this is going to be a quarterback teams are going to be so scared of blitzing because you give him players one on one, or you give him a chance to step out of the pocket, or you just allow him to sit there and take a shot and throw the ball. It's his success rate is so much higher when he's blitzed versus when he's not. And I think teams are going to realize that, hey, if this Texas O line's any better and he's another year ready, he's going to be fantastic when it comes to that. So teams are going to have to drop 7 and say, hey, let your wide receivers beat us. And then that maybe allows his legs to show up more, means that you gotta run the ball well next year. But before we end the show, let's talk about some of these young guys we want to see in the bowl game. I assume let's start with the offensive side of the ball. We'll probably see mostly Manning. Maybe you'll see some KJ Lacey, but you want to get Manning as many reps as possible. O-line is not something I'm as focused on, but skill players, Nash. I think in the running back room, CJ Baxter not going to play. I assume Traven Wisner is going to have some limited snaps. James Simon, Christian Clark, who are the guys that you're most excited to watch?
I'm really excited to see James Simon. I think that dude is. I mean, he's granted this is against lower level competition, right? But you could have said the same thing about Jonathan Brooks the year before Jonathan Brooks actually popped out. James Simon, he's forcing like 32.4% broken tackles plus missed tackles per rush attempt. That's a really high number. Like that's like Jaden Ball, Bijan Robinson level like numbers. Forcing broken and missed tackles. So I mean that's a guy that I'm really intrigued. I think that there's some explosiveness in James Simon. I think he's a really athletic guy. This is a guy that if we don't go out and get some big portal name, I really like James Simon as being able to take over that running back one duty next year. But beyond him, man, couple skill position players I'm really interested to see is one, my boy Nick Towns. I love that. I love that dude. Like he just like you want to talk about in a year where Texas has had trouble blocking people, right? I love to see Nick Townsend go out there like an absolute psychopath and I'm going to just send my body. I'm just gonna block may hit, block may not, but we're going full speed. We're full sending this, and I think that matches up a lot with like what you hear Steve Sarkisian say. He doesn't want guys thinking mid play like go 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 go. If you mess up, we'll talk about it later on Sunday, right? But I want you going while you're in the game. Nick Townsend, just really talented guy. Was a 4-star. I think that like he's one of these guys that if you could like look back on it and re-rate after 1 year, he probably ends up in that high 4-star, maybe 5-star territory.
Agreed.
And another name.
Well, I was just going to say, offensively, if you're talking about kind of these big time freshman dudes, I think Khalil Lockett getting a little bit of run. Manned up on like Jair Hill, who's a really good corner for Michigan. I think he's like 6'2", one of those really tall guys. Like get him some reps in man coverage and see if he can go get a ball or go in deep or get an important first down on a curl route, something like that. Lockett's definitely the receiver in this class that I'm most intrigued by being a true star down the line.
Yeah, I mean, Lockett's kind of one of the young wide receivers that we've kind of heard some good things about, like that. Next year could really push into the role. Wide receiver, I'm really looking forward, to see play a lot this game, and then also next year is Dalen McCutcheon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I can't tell you how much that like just slap. Not only it was only like 10 snaps or something, like 6 snaps versus Ohio State, but he got snaps near the red zone too, playing
Yeah.
versus Ohio State, like game 1 of the season as
Gotta
a
pass.
freshman for Steve Sarkisian, but yeah, that shows that there's some trust there. So I think that he's probably one of the favorites moving forward. And then
Yeah.
I'll let you go on defense first.
Yeah, like real quick, we'll wrap up on defense. I think kind of an underrated or unsung guy I want to see, especially with that position being kind of a question mark next year and needing. I just need some of these young DBs to really show that they're going to be able to play at the next level and really step up. Wardell Mack is a guy who didn't get a lot of run this year, got overtaken by a true freshman in camp, but we know that Grayson Littleton's special, and he's probably not going to be playing nickel cornerback next year. I would love it if Mack could either be good enough to start at nickel, or if they bring in a transfer, have him be able to play in a 1A, 1B kind of system, and then eventually be the starter in year 4 for him. I think he's a good player. He's struggled when he's been in the game at times this year, but let's give him some extra time to practice and throw him out there and say, hey, like Littleton, we don't need you to play too much. But let's give Mac those snaps. I'd love to see him play well and kind of use that momentum going into the next year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick right there with the same position and go to cornerback, and I'm going to go with Cade Phillips. I think that Cade Phillips, this reminds me a lot about how we saw, if you remember, we saw Malik Muhammad with the interception versus Texas Tech. Then you saw he had a really good game versus Oklahoma State, and then we come into we go into the Malik Muhammad years, right? 2024 and 2025, where he's like a legit starter. I feel like that's what we're about to see with Cade Phillips. Like we saw him, he got his first start, or second start versus Texas A&M. That's like his Texas Tech game for Malik Muhammad, and then all of a sudden now, like this is a guy that's good. He's going to be a legit dude for the secondary next year, and we're going to be a really young cornerback room, but really talented. So, I mean, I feel like this is for a guy that, granted, I was going to bring up PFF ratings. I'm on a break. I'm on a break with PFF ratings. Yeah, he's played really well. He's played like one of the best corners for Texas this year. And man, I think that him having a really good game and this game against Michigan, that could pay dividends going into next year for his confidence.
Yeah, that's going to do it for us over here at Inside Texas. Make sure you're going over there, $1 for a flash sale here, and you can get the best content, all things Texas Longhorns. I'm talking transfer portal. We're talking more 2027 recruiting. And, of course, this bowl game on New Year's Eve, the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. $1 gets you joining today. Thank you so much, Nash, for our unnamed show on Mondays, making a return. It's always a good time. Always got the festivities in the background around December on the Nash Talk Texas camera. I've been Evan Veith. Nash joining me alongside. We'll see y'all next week.